right, guys, what's up? We're live inside the newsroom at Fox 5 DC. I'm Nevola here. Happy to be with you on this Friday. So happy it's Friday. I'm sure you guys are too. In fact, it's a long weekend for some, so some of you might be celebrating President's Day, or maybe you're off on Monday, which would be awesome. So congrats, guys. Happy almost weekend. We're going to do a lot of things today, including some of the follow on the shooting, of course, in Parkland, Florida. We have some video from just a few moments ago. Senator Bill Nelson, whom we heard from yesterday, Democratic senator in Florida, who made some remarks this morning at a media staging area on his visit to Parkland. Now, we've also heard and we know that President Trump will be visiting that area, so we'll be monitoring that. If any more details on that comes in or when that happens, we'll have that video for you. I believe it is set to be this weekend. So on top of that, we do have some aerials right now. We continue to kind of watch for reaction and follow on this story. You can see the aerial footage there of the school and the parking lot and what's going on there. We're gonna bring it back into the newsroom and talk a little bit of social news, some entertainment stuff that's been trending in the news, both locally and nationally as well. And we're gonna continue on with our celebration of Black History Month. We have an awesome special guest towards the end of this stream in the 2 o'clock hour Eastern time. Karen Alston will be here with us. She is a local businesswoman, entrepreneur, activist in the Me Too movement that really started from the bottom and came up on her way. So we'll talk to her more about her path and what it means for her influencing the Black community, both locally and internationally as well. So more from her later on. She'll be a very special one to hear from, so you don't want to miss that. So stay on with us on this stream. I want to show you now, though, some of the words that we heard this morning from Senator Nelson in Florida as part of the follow to this shooting. We're going to bring you his reaction and some of those aerials as well, so we can kind of stay on this story and continue to bring you that.
That 18-year-old turns 19 and he walks into a school with an assault weapon. Then you have massacre. We've had too much of that in this state alone, not even to speak of the country. We had the Pulse nightclub. We had the Fort Lauderdale airport. And now this, and that's just Florida, and that doesn't talk about Sandy Hook and Las Vegas and Columbine and so forth. So it is time for us to start a serious effort to try to wear down the opposition that is not letting us bring up common sense legislation like we couldn't even get past a couple of years ago, that if you're on the terrorist watch list, you can't buy a gun. That's about as common sense as anything. If you're on the terrorist list, you can't get on an airplane, but you can buy a gun. That's the condition that we find ourselves in, and the same thing with assault weapons put in the hands of irresponsible people. Maybe this will be the turning point. Maybe these students speaking out so boldly as they have on national TV, maybe the parents crying out and speaking so boldly as they have, that maybe this will be the turning point, because in fact enough is enough. Earlier on, I've reaffirmed, I can just tell you that when I was briefed by the headquarters of the FBI Wednesday night about 6:30, they are the ones that told me that the alarm was tripped. They also told me that there was a gas mask and they thought smoke grenades. As it turned out, there was a gas mask. And in fact, the smoke apparently came from the discharge of the high velocity rounds as well as hitting the ceiling. You see the result. It's carnage. So I hope this is a turning point for the entire country. I can tell you I speak for a lot of senators who have been through this, And just a year ago, we had a 14-hour filibuster that so many of us in the Democratic caucus went to the Senate floor and said, this has got to stop. Well, we're going to have to do that filibuster again, but I hope this is the turning point.
Is that how you change the status quo, though, Senator, then? Making a filibuster? I mean,
You got to change it by changing the law. Now, changing the law means that you got to get the votes to get 60 votes. I know we'll have 49 votes in the Senate because that's the number of Democrats we have. You got to pick up 11 Republican senators to break the filibuster, in other words, to get to where you can consider the bill. It's called a motion for cloture. And 11 senators, by the way, 11 Republican senators, we couldn't even get yesterday afternoon to take the DACA Dreamers legislation to the floor. We ended up with only 54 votes. We had to have 60. You see how difficult these things are on something as common sense of helping the dreamers stay in this country.
Senator, are there any draft bills or anything out there right now that you think might get a second look at this point? Something that's already been out there that sort of sits somewhere in the middle that could actually get the movement?
Yes, and I'm a co-sponsor of all of them. One of them, for example, is Senator Feinstein's bill. There are a number of us that are sponsoring it that says that you cannot legally purchase an assault weapon. And then it goes on for 100 pages to define what is an assault weapon and what is not an assault weapon. Collector's items, for example, would not be an assault weapon. But I'll tell you what is, and it's the two assault weapons that have got us here in Florida, the AR-15 and the Sig Sauer that took out 49 people in Orlando.
Senator, there's a lot of people who are saying, for years they've been saying, they want the shootings to come to an end, and they haven't come to an end. But the kids we're speaking to today have said, if you don't do it, if Marco Rubio doesn't do it, if the Senate doesn't do it, then they're going to do it. What do you tell them?
And don't forget Tallahassee, because the Florida legislature could make a law in this state to outlaw these assault weapons, as other states have done.
So what's your reaction to those kids and their anger?
Well, the kids are just terrific. The fact that they are speaking up as boldly as they are, maybe that's the turning point. You haven't heard students speak up one after another, after they have witnessed this carnage and speaking with such conviction. Sadly, no. I thought I was going to see a response just on DACA Dreamer kids yesterday, but only 7 came forward to help us.
What do you think, Senator? Gun lobby, your fellow senators taking millions of dollars from the NRA, is that what's stopping gun cases?
The gun lobby is merely reflective of the gun manufacturers. They have a vested interest in this, which is to sell more guns. They don't want a limitation on the guns. Now, you're looking at somebody who supports the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. I grew up here in Florida on a ranch. I have always had guns since I was a little boy. I have hunted all my life. I still hunt with my son. But an AR-15 is not for hunting. It's for killing.
Have you spoken to Senator Rubio since the shooting, and what was the nature of that conversation?
I have. As a matter of fact, Senator Rubio and I both went to the floor of the Senate yesterday at noon, first for a moment of silence, and then secondly, we spoke. I offered for him to go first. I told him I was going to hit it pretty hard. He said, no, you're the senior senator, you go first. So I spoke. I said many things, just like I've said here, about this. And then Senator Rubio spoke. Yeah.
Don't you think people who make money and they're going supposed to be responsible for this thing, this action now? They make money on it, now they back up. If they make money on it, they're supposed to be responsible as well as their young men. I'm not a journalist, but I know what's going on. They make money on it. They're supposed to be responsible for it.
I can tell you.
That is wrong.
I fight this all the time. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Trump is coming.
Say again?
Mr. Trump is coming.
Yeah. I don't know. There was a report this morning that he has. Sí. Yo hablo poquito. Es un problema muy grande.
What do you will say to the President of the United States? He said he's going to show up. He said messages to his leader. He didn't mention anything related to his son.
It's very hard to pass legislation unless the president will support it so that he gets the support among the Republican senators. So what I would say to the president is, please change your position about assault weapons. Please change your position, Mr. President, about background checks. These are two common sense things that we need to etch into law right now. There is one that's going on as we speak. There's another one. I don't know if I'm going to be able to.
Senator, there was a mother from Sandy Hook that was here this morning talking to us, and she had hoped that there was going to be change. She says nothing's changed, that it's only grassroots that has to. Is that what it, I mean?
And that's why we did the 14-hour filibuster a year ago, saying, what more is it going to take? And then, of course, there was Las Vegas. And now this. And it keeps going on. And that's why I keep saying enough is enough.
Is there any hope, Senator Nelson?
Well, we're going to try. The question was, is there any hope? And the question is answered by saying, we're going to continue to try. Yes, ma'am. Jana.
There is, I'm sure you would agree, some sense of responsibility on voters to keep responding and voting this way. Yet there really doesn't seem to always be an appetite for what they vote.
The question is, there's a responsibility on the voters' part. I certainly hope that the voters are going to accept that responsibility come this election. After Pulse, it went on business as usual. After Fort Lauderdale Airport, same thing. Now, after 59 killed in Las Vegas, the same thing. Maybe this is the turning point. Maybe the people of Florida are so riveted to a high caliber assault rifle in the hands of a 19-year-old walking into and out of classrooms and up and down the hallways. Maybe they're upset enough with that to make that one of the issues that they're going to consider. I certainly hope so in this coming election.
Senator, after the Las Vegas shooting, there was a bill to ban bump stocks. It made it out of the Republican
That's right.
House. Currently, it's just sitting in a committee in the Senate. Is there any hope to get that out? If you talk to your colleagues?
Isn't that telling? Bump stocks, something that takes a gun that under present law is legal, a semi-automatic assault rifle, and turns it into a fully automatic by using the recoil, and therefore, should it be outlawed? Of course it should, but we can't even get that. And as a matter of fact, the administration was going to enforce it administratively, and now all of that's stalled in the Trump administration. So you see the kind of luck that a lot of the gun interests have on this. And it's not common sense. It's not common sense. You ought to easily get rid of a bump stock. Just everything that I've discussed. Okay, thank you all. It's a sad, sad day. Yeah, it's a sad, sad day. It's a sad, sad number of days.
So guys, obviously tons of emotion running high in Florida today. It truly is a sad day in the wake of this massacre. We keep hearing more details about people coming out and faking GoFundMe accounts and other people making threats in their own schools. Obviously, these things are all to be taken seriously by authorities, so the FBI has been continuing to investigate this. I put this together with another video. Bill Nelson came back and spoke a little more, so we're going to play out that second piece here. This is just moments after this first interview. Here's what he had to say.
You can always do that, and you can have a plan, as this school did. You can have an armed security guard, as this school did. But when a kid walks in with an assault rifle, as you see, that didn't do any good.
Tell us a little bit about mental health, and what does this say about the state of mental health issues here in our country?
Mental health is something that we've neglected all along, and it's certainly a part of an overall problem, not just with this, but with a lot of other crimes. And I hope and pray, it took us all these years in America till about 10 years ago that we enacted bipartisan some serious mental health law. But then getting that funded at both the state, local, and federal level is always the challenge.
Are there any proposals that both sides of the aisle kind of agree with or want to push in some fashion?
Well, we've tried. Take, for example, I thought we were going to be able to keep the DACA Dreamer kids yesterday from being deported March the 5th. And yet we couldn't get the required 60 votes to advance the bill. We got 54 votes. And so can we get a bipartisan solution to this gun problem? I certainly hope so. But by past actions, I just told you all the measures that we had tried to pass, you can't get the votes.
And in the meantime,
thanks. You got it.
Thank you.
Go for it.
Do you need water? Real quick. We're just take
Sure. If you don't mind.
Yep.
Because she believes that ROTC is being.
She doesn't want to be on camera? Okay. I have to find out what they need from us next. She doesn't want to go on camera. All right, I got to see what we need to do next.
on the live view. Just check the live view.
You're going to talk to me?
Okay.
So I'm Andy. Can you please state your name for us and your title?
Jared Moskowitz. I'm a state representative, District 97.
So how much on day 3? How much is processing of what you think has to happen next in our communities and in the state and in the government to prevent this from happening?
Well, this is all still being processed. I mean, right now I'm going to a funeral where a parent is going to put their 14-year-old in the ground because they sent them to school. That's all they did. All these parents did was send their kids to school to learn history or English or geography. And apparently that was a mistake because our schools are not safe. So we live in the most powerful country in the world. We have the most powerful military in the world, the best economy, but we can't keep our children safe. That's a collective failure. And so what I'm trying to tell people is we shouldn't look at this as Democrats or Republicans. We have to look at this as parents. Parents are the ones who are going to solve this, okay? Not everyone's going to get what we want, but we have to do something. We've been doing nothing. We've been very consistent at doing nothing. Doing nothing is not working. Parkland is the safest city in the state of Florida. If this circus could come here, it can come to any town. Every parent needs to look at Parkland and realize this is coming to your town next if we do not do something.
New details came out recently on keep mentioning here comments and reaction to just kind of how his childhood went.
Well, look, it's the same story every time. The shooter's name changes, the victim's names change, and the location changes. But, you know, the shooter has a troubled past, you know, didn't have a great childhood, you know, he didn't have a lot of friends. But all the signs are there, right? He's kicked out of school, he's saying stuff on social media, and yet we don't track that. We do nothing. And he didn't buy this gun at the back of a car illegally. He didn't get it from his parents' storage room. He bought it through the legal process. This was someone who should have never had access to a weapon. We just have to admit that some people, like, who can't drive. There are some people who are not allowed to drive. You have a stroke, you're not allowed to have a driver's license for a period of time. There are just some people who should not have access to a weapon, and this is one of them. And so we have to start looking at ways to prevent this, because they're all the same story. This is not new. It's not the second time or the third time. It's a dozen times already. But I'll tell you something. Parkland's a unique town. These kids are smart. They're going places in their lives. And if I was an elected official, I'd be afraid of the kids that got out of that building, because they're coming for these elected officials. They're coming to Tallahassee. They're coming to Washington, D.C. They're going to be relentless, and they're going to look for solutions. Parkland is a solutions town. They're in the solutions business. They're going to want to know what is being done. And if there are folks in Washington, D.C. or Tallahassee that want to do nothing, that's their right to do nothing. But let them come here. Get out from behind your desk. Get out from the halls of Congress. Get out from Tallahassee. Come here. Look these parents in the face and tell them, we just put your kid in the ground and we're going to do nothing.
Thank you very much.
Can you say spell your first name?
Oh, sorry.
Sure.
You did for the beginning.
Jared, Jared, Moskowitz, Moskowitz.
Thank you. Do you have a business card?
You have a business card?
Thank you.
And if you guys would like me on later, I'd be more than happy to do something.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate it.
You guys send me an email. It's the best way.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna go.
Yeah. All right. Should we make a call? Do we want to
Yeah,
call?
I need to check in because
we need to see.
give you the.
All right, guys, thanks for bearing with us on that little break. Obviously, just a lot of emotion running high on both sides of this issue, but a lot of people, a lot of officials, politicians calling for stricter gun laws. As we've seen with every situation like this, every shooting that we've had, and we've had so many already in 2018, celebrities calling it out, Jimmy Kimmel making a big statement last night on his late night show, these representatives and senators here from Florida. So a lot of people speaking out about this. We're hopefully going to hear more like this in coming days, and it's not going to just drop down as people are saying, hey, we're just going to forget about this in a few days. So We're looking forward to bringing all this commentary to you and making sure that you stay up on the live news from some of these elected officials who have the power to affect change and who have been talking about it and tweeting about it since this all happened. And we're going to continue to follow the situation down there in Parkland as well. If we have video coming in when the president eventually gets down there as well, we'll go to that. But now let's talk about some other interesting stories, some top stories just in the social realm, some stuff that has been sort of hot for us on digital. And I'm going to start with this little package. It's actually a news segment from yesterday from one of our evening broadcasts about a local woman buying, this is totally changing gears, I understand, buying fish from Costco, and she found somewhat of a nasty surprise inside. Take a look at this segment from last night and then we'll talk about it.
The squeamish one should take a look at what a Frederick, Maryland woman posted on Facebook.
Okay, look closely there. That there on the right is a worm in the fish she just bought from the grocery store. Even though it looks gross, the question is there some kind of health risk? I don't. It gives me.
What difference does it make?
Look like that is disgusting.
Yeah.
Lauren DeMarco joins us now to break it all down. Lauren, that's yuck.
Just in time for Lent, right? All right. So if you fish yourself or you cook frequently, well then you may be aware that a lot of fish, raw fish, have worms or parasites, and you may be a little more aware than the rest of us who were a little shocked by this. But when you get a package from the store and you go to prepare it, put it on the stove, cook up your dinner, you do not expect to see what this woman saw. Take a look at that video again. All right, this was a sizable worm, seemingly alive and wiggling around there at the top right of the screen. This is a piece of packaged raw wild-caught cod. Emily Randolph says she bought it on Friday, February 9th, from the Costco in Frederick, Maryland. She planned to cook it a few days later before the sell-by date of February 12th, but says that the fish had begun to take on a bad smell. So she and her husband took a look. They saw that worm. She brought it back to Costco on Monday, and the store refunded her, but she wasn't exactly pleased with their response.
I saw a worm coming out of the fish I was potentially about to eat. It was big. I've even Googled it since then, and that was a very large worm. Okay. It should have been caught before it was put out to the public to potentially eat.
So then you come, you bring it back. What happens?
We were returning cod, but the person before us had just returned salmon that had worms in it.
And who told you that?
The lady behind the counter that we returned it to.
Randolph posted the video yesterday as a heads up to her Facebook friends. Check your food before you eat it. It already has more than 200,000 views, has been shared nearly 4,000 times. Many people commenting just plain grossed out. But others are bewildered that so many people aren't aware that raw fish, especially bottom feeders like cod, can have worms. We spoke over the phone with D.C. gastroenterologist Catherine Kirk for her take.
As disconcerting as that is, per the infectious disease specialist and the CDC, those worms will be killed if you properly cook fish and meat, and they shouldn't cause any symptoms at all.
The Frederick County Health Department says it is aware of the matter and will investigate the report, but a spokeswoman says as long as fish is properly cooked, parasites, gross as they may look, will die off and should not be a health hazard. She says fish needs to be brought to a temperature of 145 degrees for a minimum of 15 seconds to be safe. Now, I spoke with Costco tonight. They say that they really take care to look through all of their fish and try to remove any parasites, but that sometimes some slip through the cracks, as apparently we saw here. They also gave me this handout, which they say that if customers are concerned, this is what they hand them. Now, Emily Randolph says that she was not given this. But Sean and Jim, I have to tell you, the one question some people had was the difference of wild-caught versus farm-raised fish. So parasites really shouldn't be found in farm-raised fish because they're fed pellets. But then there are other pros and cons.
Yeah, they're farm-raised. I mean, okay. I have friends texting me right now who are like, ooh, that's just nasty. That's
Cook
gross.
your fish all the way through. And when it comes to sushi, by the way, that is commercially frozen, which kills off the parasites if you're getting it in a place that does it properly. So that's a different story, too.
Okay. I mean, I'm just water. Yeah. Purified water or something
Chicken?
like that. No, nothing. I don't know anything.
So that was a story from yesterday, and what do you guys think about that? It's pretty shocking, pretty nasty. Bryce is here to join me to talk about some of these topics that we're just going to roll through that have been hot on social, hot on digital, and that was one of them. We'll start with that. All right, so that was a longer segment. She did a lot of explaining there, and you know what? That last statement on sushi being frozen, commercially frozen, gave me a little bit a sense of comfort in that, because I was curious about that as well, because she was saying cook all the way through, cook all the way through, but some amazing delectable dishes with fish are medium rare, or they're not cooked all the way.
Absolutely.
Ceviche, different sushis, different things. So as like a food lover yourself, you and me, watching that, you talked about the story this morning when we were back at the desk.
Yeah, we were talking about this. I thought it was disgusting. And here, let me follow up to that. I don't know if she mentioned it in the interview.
Don't know.
So she went to the Costco, returned the cod that had the worm. Coincidentally, there was a woman behind her also who was returning salmon that had worms in it.
Really?
How gross is that?
So it was 2 strikes for this Costco.
It was 2 strikes for this Costco. And it just blew me out the water, because it's the first thing that I walked into this morning. Hadn't had my breakfast, which might be a good thing. But yeah,
well, I guess
it's expected, I suppose. It doesn't happen often, but you always hear about these cases pop up in the news. Like that one guy in California who was eating sushi, and I think they found worms in it, or like he developed worms inside his stomach from eating so much sushi. So.
Yeah,
guys,
you find out about these things. Sometimes they're private, seafood type distributors. Sometimes bigger chains, and obviously, that's the question. Does that suddenly look really bad for Costco all over the nation, or is it just sort of a one-time case where this happens, where you just have to kind of watch for it, look at the date, talk about, learn more about the parasites. Lauren DeMarco did an awesome job there explaining sort of what it means, farm raised wild, what happens. But it's true. You do hear the pros and cons of, wild is better. I've always learned that wild is better than farm because of what they raise them on, but farms can protect against XYZ that you might find in wild. So if you guys have any thoughts or comments on this, or if you've ever experienced this, let us know.
Right, please.
It is kind of a crazy story. Again, that was in Frederick, Maryland, so kind of close. And she posted it on Facebook for all the world to see. And once things go social and people see them and then they become a big story, I mean, that's just fodder for us to grab for a digital story.
Absolutely.
So
those viral ones. They made a new one, and I'm glad that they were able, to fully explain, because rest assured, I had 1,000,001 questions, but after watching that interview, like you mentioned, there were a few things addressed. So that was always interesting.
I'm going to go segue this right to, speaking of Facebook, and we're going to give you a little look there. This is the headquarters in California. Facebook is making some changes. I don't know if you guys heard about this. They are announcing a little bit of a different look. They're announcing a new feature. It's going to be a lists feature. It's going to add to your news feed, and they're going to roll it out. Yeah, and it's sort of going to be like a to-do list featured on your news feed. So you can, I guess, be public with your interactions from people about your day. I guess your personal information, what you're doing, your errands. There's no word on the official date of the rollout, but they were saying it could happen as soon as Valentine's Day, which was a couple days ago. But I haven't seen much of this yet. I have to admit, I get some news articles and whatnot on Facebook, but let's talk about how Facebook has totally changed over the years.
Absolutely.
We're big in the tech and digital world. You guys probably are too. You're on YouTube watching us right now. It's such a different realm of, the demographic using it, what you're getting on it.
Absolutely.
Obviously that froze on me. But so how many of you guys use Facebook? And I also want to know your age and demographic, because we were talking about this the other day, it's also changing in that world. They're saying it's more adults now.
It's more adults now. Someone tweeted to me and said it's more for our parents. Funny thing is, my parents don't have Facebook, which is great. Just stay away from it. But yeah, they are saying that it's the older demographic group that is more attracted to it. So I think your aunts, uncles, grandparents, mother, father. Me personally, I'm not for it. Yeah, here and there I'll go in and I'll find articles and I'm like, oh my gosh, I did not see this today, and that's how it'll pop up. Or I'll get lost in a video thread. So 9 times out of 10 it's an animal video or a cooking one. So it's just a loop of that kind of video. And I'll get lost in that for 10 minutes and then I'm done. That's all I utilize it for. I don't upload photos. I'll constantly see friends uploading pictures of their families and what they're doing throughout their day. I'm just not for
Yeah.
it. I don't know. I stay away.
And it's one thing to say because our page, Fox 5 DC, is a huge driver of all our information. We post all our awesome stories. And again, it's where people are getting news. So to me, I use it to get some articles as well. You're going to flip through some cool digitally put together videos to learn more. I think it's more of an educational tool rather to me than a social, let me get my stuff out there. And so in this story, what's interesting is they're adding yet another feature. Some people are saying, hey, now my newsfeed is going to be clogged with people's to-dos, what they're doing. They're making lists of stuff they're going to do or talk about, maybe songs. I don't really know exactly what they mean by these lists.
Yeah, it confuses me.
Yeah, Zuckerberg is saying, CEO Mark Zuckerberg is saying that they're seeking to create a more meaningful social interaction on the platform by doing this. To me, it's just another sort of look at your personal life, and it's another sort of intrusive, like, know more about me. But again, since people like us, and maybe you guys too as digital users, use Facebook for more of an informative tool, for articles, for educational purposes, for breaking news even.
Breaking news.
We use it a big time, obviously, in our newsroom. So I'm just curious what people use it for, because it's I think we're lucky to live in this generation where it's sort of changed the realm of, when we started with it. You were probably still in high school. I was a freshman in college.
Yeah, I was in high school
when I jumped on it, and it was exciting to share your pictures with people. It was the newer,
with your
more
friends.
Yeah, it was more honed in. It was more interesting. That MySpace, it was like beyond that.
MySpace broke relationships. Those top 8, if you weren't in it, goodbye, done deal. Do you remember that?
I barely knew. I wasn't in it.
Oh.
And then when Facebook blew up, it was like a big thing.
Oh gosh, yeah, that took over that, which is great. I feel like that may have rekindled relationships too between people.
That's harsh, huh?
Yeah.
Facebook, and I don't know if I ever went down that road of sort of rooting relationships, but it could. They said social media can really affect you.
Yeah.
But I know it was made for your college first, and then it branched off to high schools, and then it branched to other people and adults, and then the international world. So it totally changed, and I feel lucky that we've kind of been in that time frame because we saw the changes. We get to kind of use it how we wanted to in the different years. Now, to each his own, using it as you will. But Mark Zuckerberg continuing to try to throw in new stuff to kind of keep it relevant, I guess.
To keep it relevant, because I think Instagram is the one that constantly surpassing it. It has how many millions?
We should look at the stats on that.
We should definitely. If you guys know the stats, send it to us. But for me, my personal favorite, definitely Instagram. Just because it's more of that creative, artsy culture. It's funny. It's also very meaningful. I love the arts, and I'll constantly troll art accounts.
Yeah, they're good.
If you're into entertainment, you have your celebrities there. You're probably getting your entertainment news before you hear it on any outlet.
Totally.
Right?
We get tons of ideas via that too. We're coming in like, oh, I already saw this last night. We're gonna make it into a story.
Absolutely.
So it really is the first and foremost thing. And using these digital platforms, like even we have here, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, that's the way to get your news the fastest.
Yeah.
So anyway, I thought that was a relevant story, especially to talk about with social media editor.
Absolutely.
And we'll see where that goes for Facebook.
We'll see where that goes.
To ramp it up.
I know.
But speaking of Instagram, we had an awesome Instagram post today, this morning, because this was a really great. Actually, I'm going to flip to it right here. You get a little teaser right here. Here's a photo. So Black Panther, All the Rage, is the movie that's coming out, or it came out last night.
It came out last night.
But it's pushing this weekend. Lots of students going to see it. Of course, big for the African American community here. Marvel movie. We've had a lot of reviews on it at the station. And last night at one of the premieres locally in Woodbridge, Virginia.
Locally, yep, the Woodbridge, Virginia AMC Theater.
I love
to
this.
be exact. There was this, I'm sure you guys have seen it if you guys haven't seen it already. There's a picture of what looks like Prince Akeem from Coming to America gracing the theater with his elegant presence in full-bodied costume, guys, to see the Black Panther. It's so good. It's honestly having people tap into their roots. African American culture has literally blown up within the past, I don't know, a few years. I feel like I'm submitted to it a lot more. So to see this at a Black Panther premiere is amazing. So it made its rounds on the internet. I was able to get in contact with the individual who tweeted it out, because that's where it went out first, and he actually sent me a video. So we threw in a little music to give you a little feel, and this is the video, guys.
Check it out. I love it. So he gets a ton of applause, and I guess what was it? His girlfriend took this video.
Yeah. So the guy who tweeted the picture out, his girlfriend snapped a picture of him coming in, and the guy recorded the video, and so he gave us permission to use it. So
people going out all in full force. And if you guys are familiar, maybe some of you love this. I think Coming to America is so good. It's one of my favorites.
Same here.
They projected it on the wall of Union Market, which is an awesome outdoor space for. It's sort of indoor market with eateries and whatnot, but it's also a cool outdoor space and hangout. So last summer I went to see it again. Finally, Coming to America. I mean, I'd seen it, but it was a rekindling of this comedy. Loved it, and I love that it sort of pervades sort of the movie-going group, I guess, in DC, and this guy dressed up as it to celebrate. Yeah. And so I think our headline was from Zamunda to Wakanda,
which is the central location for Black Panther. If you guys are into it, are you guys going? Let me know. I literally bought my tickets 2 months ago. Yeah, for Saturday.
What
guys.
night? Saturday night?
So tomorrow morning, actually. Matinee, got it cheap. But nonetheless, when I got it like 2 months ago, I think it was, tickets for Friday were basically sold out. There was nothing but front row sections. I don't want front row. I want to be dead center. Like that's my favorite. Like being in the dead center of the theater, right in the middle. So I'm like, literally, this is what I see. So I'm gonna go check it out tomorrow, guys. Yeah, I know our Kevin McCarthy has raved about it. He's talked about it on our morning show. He's interviewed the actors. If you guys are interested in his take on it, check out our website. It's all on there. But yeah, so that was our little Instagram video for the day.
It was good.
It was good.
It was really good. It's cool to see people local in the community getting so psyched for this movie. Lots of kids going today. I know there were busloads of kids going on a field trip to see it. Obviously, it's a Marvel superhero movie, but great for the Black community to, like I said, see this as part of their culture. And speaking of that, it's Black History Month, too, so it coincides with us celebrating their culture. Speaking of that, quick tease out, because I mentioned this earlier, we do have a very special guest coming up at 2 o'clock, so in just a little bit, we'll probably take some breaks here and there and cover more of the shooting down in Florida and just more follow on what's going on down there. But we'll talk to a woman named Karen at 2 o'clock, a special guest here for Black History Month, who will share sort of her experience of growing in...
1 second, guys. Dry throat.
Growing in the Fortune 100 company sort of realm, into her own entrepreneurship, starting her own activist movement, speaking at a bunch of events, and really just being an influential force in the African American community for women. And she'll talk about that in regards to Black History Month as well. So we'll get her story. We'll talk to her more about what it was like being, one of the only Black women on the board of X company that she worked with from the beginning, right out of college, and we'll see what that's like and just kind of have a sit-down conversation with her. So make sure you stay on with us and stay tuned for that. Okay, so back to some more social stories. Bryce will come back to talk to me about this one, but check this out. This is going back a couple days to Valentine's Day. I know it's over technically, but it is the week of love, so we're still celebrating stories like this. Check this out. So a local woman had a surprise when a package thief came to her door and stole a package off her doorstep on Valentine's Day, but in it was a very special surprise that she had planned for herself and her husband. You might be able to guess what that may be, but check out this package that our reporter Matt Acklin put together from last night, and they ran it on last night's show. Check it out here, and then we'll chat about it.
I want to cover your kids' eyes just for a second or two.
Oh.
They've been married for 5 years, but they act like newlyweds. Valentine's Day is something Yolanda Daly plans out carefully for Gil each year. And this year, well, she wanted to turn up the heat a bit.
And every day is special for us, but this was just going to be a little extra.
So she went online and picked out this sexy number and some heels. And for Gil, well, she got him a nice robe. And whatever this is.
Some nice intimate items for Valentine's Day. And I was wanting to make Valentine's Day special.
But as the big day got closer, the sexy clothing package never arrived. Yolanda called the post office and then decided to check her security camera. And look what she found. Her intimates in the hands of a stranger. What do you think he thought when he opened up the package?
Well, I'm a big dude, and I think it was at least a 2 or 3X, whatever she got me. And this dude looked like he was an extra small.
Yeah, I don't think he was too happy at all. Have fun with that.
Yolanda says she can get over losing the $63 for the purchase, but what really gets her upset is that someone got in the way of a tradition she tries to make so special. But don't worry, we asked her about Plan B.
I hear you had to go to your old.
Oh gosh, yes. I had to go to old, you know, the old stuff with the little holes and tears in it, maybe. Not so sexy, I guess, or.
I believe she admitted that. The old stuff. You know, you got to go to Plan B. And I think that Gil might be seeing his gift for the first time.
Oh, my gosh.
And all of Gil's friends and everyone else. I think he's going to look great in
Now all of his friends are envisioning Gil in that outfit, and that's the only thing we're going to be able to think of when they see Gil now.
Thanks to Photoshop, you know, anything's possible.
Yes, it is.
By the way, District Heights Police, we tried to contact them. Yolanda called them. They're looking into it. And so far, we don't know if anyone has been arrested. And we should also say the reason that Yolanda does this, she said she grew up with her parents always doing this. Her mom and dad would make Valentine's Day special for them. And so what she wants to do is do that for Gil. And they were really, I mean, an adorable couple, 5 years married. They were holding hands, kissing the whole time. True Valentine.
A couple doing it right.
Yeah, why did some guy have to go mess it up? I mean, poor Gil, he didn't have to wear that last year.
Darn it. Darn it.
Sorry, Gil.
Let me say I love Sarah Simmons cracking up on the desk. That's her in the middle there with her beautiful red hair. She's so funny, and I love her voice. She was cracking up with this story, and it really is funny. And I also thought it was interesting how Matt Acklin on the left there closed the story, because he said that she does it, you know, that's awesome. It's her personal tradition, but she does it because her parents did it?
Her parents used to do it, so she saw that growing up, and I thought that was a very odd ending.
Kind of, right? Like, how do you know that?
How do you know that? Right.
But isn't that a hilarious story? Let's bring back up the still because we have to show it of this. Matt was so funny when he described this. But really, it became, you know, a Valentine's Day story because this was honestly, it's more of a talker of a topic, and they haven't actually even found the thief. But I love that she was so open and was showing, like, this is what I bought for him. This is what was stolen. This is why I'm upset.
I want to know how that thief's face looked like when he opened this package, thinking, who knows what he thought was in there. But to find this in there, he knew he messed up. He ruined someone's Valentine's Day.
I wonder
How
if it
dare
was funny
you, sir?
for him, if he didn't care, if he ended up ditching it, or if honestly it created like a little bit of a comedy in his own system, right?
Yeah. And we don't know if he's been caught yet, right?
Let me say, Matt ended it just being like, you know, we don't know the further details, but let me just say, what was not pictured was the thing that she bought for herself, which was another little sexy thing that was also bought for her. We couldn't show it on TV, so it was kind of interesting.
Another little number. But we were able to show this one.
I know, apparently that was cool. I mean, I was the same way. What do you guys think about that? Pretty crazy, right? It's insane. So anyway,
It's
what
hilarious.
a story. Another story from the Week of Love.
Yeah.
And
or the Week of Heartbreak.
Oh, hey, so it's President's Weekend this weekend. We have some people who will be off this week, this Monday.
Yeah.
And so our newsroom will be a little more quiet. We'll see kind of what we have going on. Maybe there'll be some official celebrations and stuff in the city that we'll be streaming, which will be kind of cool.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. So you'll be in the know. You'll see what's going on.
Stay in the know a little bit, but let us know if you guys are working. Maybe you're off for the weekend too. If you have any special plans, let us know what you're doing.
Right. It's the perfect time to plan like a nice little 3-day getaway.
Oh, true.
Right. I like to
that.
take advantage of those days where it's like you have that 3-day weekend, but it's always tough that following week. Yeah. So what else is going on, Molly?
You know,
what else do you have?
Not too much. I guess we had these stories. I just wanted to make sure we talked about all of that stuff because it was great. It's some of the stuff we've been featuring on our website and on our Instagram and all of our platforms. The only thing I have coming in right now is a little bit of video from the state of Washington. So all the way across the Pacific Northwest. It's actually a little more serious. Apparently there are some reports of some shots may have been fired in a town called Des Moines, Washington.
Okay.
At Highline College.
Oh, goodness.
This is just coming in. I know we've been dealing with stuff like this and this horrible type of news. I'm going to try to look up more about what police are responding to there. Apparently just a report of gunfire. at this small college there in Washington State. So we're going to bring up some video, try to track along with this, and go from there. But reminder that we're going to be back at 2 o'clock with our special guest for Black History Month. So stay on with us for that, or at least keep us up. We're going to be hanging out with you guys at least till 2:30-ish when we roll it out with Karen. So that's very exciting.
That'll be cool.
I know we missed last week, unfortunately. We skipped a week with our Black History focus, but we'll be back today with that, and hopefully one more next week as well.
Awesome.
So I do see some smiling faces on some of the security guards that are kind of responding to this incident. So that may mean things are not as serious as they could be. So let's hope that's the case. But we're going to bring you this live footage, and we'll bring you more information when we have it.
Bye, guys.
I'm just saying, like, I feel like the news is
All right, guys, so obviously that shot is being scrapped, or it's moving or something. We don't have it quite clearly in focus anymore, but when we get that back, we'll make sure we bring that to you. You can see the information at the bottom of the screen here. Just trying to effort more information. What we know is that police are responding to gunfire at Highland Community College in Des Moines, Washington. It's about 17 miles south of Seattle. A warning went out to students at 9 a.m. on Friday today. It said that this was not a drill. They said close the doors and the windows. Police are responding to campus, and that police were on their way. Now, that little piece of video that I just showed you showed that police were kind of gathered together. I did see some of them laughing and whatnot. You don't get the big sense of urgency that may be the case if we had aerial shots of something that was more serious, but we do want to kind of keep following this and see what we can get from it. That's what we have right now from Washington State. So when we have more, we'll bring that to you. Until then, hang on with us and we'll be back.
Can we go through right here? Right here until we find out more. Okay, sounds good. Yeah, so I'm based on the edge of campus. Yeah, I haven't got any students, so if you can get some students, that'd be awesome. All right, bye. I don't know if this is actually a real thing. Who knows? It's going to be the lead story. What was that? Yeah, I know the little bit changed the last time we saw it.
Firecrackers? Where'd you hear that? On your scan? Are you security for the school? Who are you with? Oh, okay. Firecrackers, huh? Coming with you, everything? Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, things have changed. They're definitely talking about this bill. That was the original report. Here was recorded in 1999. It was that one. That's one. So they listed the Bearcat Act. Yeah, I just have it definitely. I would find part of this when I got here and it kicked me out.
All right, guys, thanks for hanging on with us here. As always, we're live in the newsroom here at Fox 5 DC, watching exactly what you're watching here, this footage of some of the tactical units and police rushing to check out the situation in Des Moines, Washington. Now, this is about 17 miles south of Seattle. We had that map up for you earlier. I'm going to flip to that right here so you can get sort of a general view of where this is. Now, of course, schools and colleges across the United States are on high alert ever since the shooting in Florida just a couple days ago. So we know that, it was one of the deadliest school shootings that we've seen in U.S. history. Of course, people are going to be taking all this other stuff very seriously. Now, what we know is the school's on lockdown. This is a community college of about 17,000 students. And the police department saying that there were some reports of shots fired. Now, we don't know where exactly or what, or if there are any victims of gunfire in general at all. All we know is there were reports of shots fired. You can see the units there gathering. We have another camera angle as well. A couple of different ones there. There's a tactical member there walking towards the camera, guns drawn. So everyone is definitely on high alert here as this seems to happen after these mass shootings. We do see threats and other things that have to be taken very seriously because of what we've seen in the past. Now, we saw, according to reports, there was a student that tweeted out that he heard 6 to 8 gunshots while walking to class, and now they are in lockdown. So what we know is this community college currently in lockdown, like I said, in Washington State, 17 miles south of Seattle. And the administration, via Facebook, is actually urging people on their campus to barricade themselves in their doors and windows and wait for police to kind of bring the situation to under control. Now, we have a couple different angles. I'm going to kind of flip cameras for you so you can kind of see what we're looking at here. And we'll jump out from this reporter so we can just sort of get the angle. Because we don't have rights to that reporter, unfortunately. But traffic is being diverted away from that scene. Like I said, the school itself on lockdown. We're going to try to find out some more information for you. But it's a small community college of about 17,000 students. And there are reports from students that are saying, hey, we're walking out of class right now. There is possibly shooting on campus. Check your surroundings. It's getting out of hand. That was just one of the tweets from one of the students that we've been reading. Of course, not exactly confirmed on our end, but we're going to be watching this report to give you more information if anything is to become of this. Because, of course, in light of the events in Florida, this is all very serious. We saw Nicholas Cruz now charged with 17 counts of premeditated murder, and it's a big heightened awareness week for security on campuses and in public schools and in private schools and everything around the nation this week after Parkland. And more follow on that as we have it as well. I know Senator Bill Nelson was speaking on that. He made some remarks from Florida this morning that we brought to you live from our stream. So it's earlier on the stream if you want to catch that. But for now, guys, that's what we have. This is the view, another view here. You can see medical units there, tactical units all gathering in this parking lot. The school is on lockdown. We're kind of efforting some more tweets from some of those students in case we can find out some more information about what this is really all about. But for now, take a look at this footage. We'll find out more, and we'll bring that to you on your screen when we have it.
unfortunately, people are assuming they're gunshots and assuming the worst, which is fine because that means they're going to report it to 911 and it's going to allow the police and fire departments to investigate it properly. We would much rather find that it turns out to be nothing, a hoax or just a mistake, than not have it reported and then action is not taken as it should be.
What is the protocol by which Highline issues a lockdown as they did today?
You know, I have not talked to the Highline authorities, so I do not want to speak on their behalf about what their protocols are. I would definitely talk to the school district or Highline Community College faculty to find out exactly what it is that they do. Any other questions right now? Okay, we'll let you guys know if anything changes, obviously. If you don't hear from us, assume everything is just still in progress. For probably, I was told probably the next hour or so. All right, so bear with us.
All right, so that's the latest from Kyle Ohashi here at the scene. Let's send it back to you guys in the studio.
All right, guys, so you heard a little bit of the latest there from an official at the scene that there are still reports of this gunfire, but nothing confirmed, no confirmations of fatalities or any victims of shooting. But we did have some students that we've been reading about reports say that they are tweeting that, hey, this was on lockdown, I had to run out of my class, this wasn't a drill, police came to campus, told us to barricade ourselves and whatnot. So continuing to investigate the situation, it sounds like they'll be on site for an hour or so and they're going to look into it more. And then if we have any more information on that, we'll bring that to you. More pictures from the scene, we'll bring that to you as well.
Here, we're on.
My friend Austin run by, say he has a gun, go home, and then immediately my group chat with my classmates, and I was going to communications, that blew up saying, where is everybody? And then that's when everybody started saying we're in lockdown. And our group chat with our teammates saying we're in lockdown too, with one of them, and our 2 coaches are still there right now.
And so the panic that you saw on campus,
It was, it made my heart sink. That's when I started to cry. That's when I knew it was real, that those popping sounds were actually gunfire. And just with what happened down in Florida, that just popped into my head, and I was just immediately started praying that nobody got hurt, that everything's fine and everything like that. It was just terrifying to see all those people just in their faces just be in complete like horror and just scared out of their mind.
Here in our neighborhood too. I mean, that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you never think it's gonna happen around here.
No, exactly, and especially what just happened, that was the last thing that I would have ever thought would happen, especially like you said, in this neighborhood and at our school. I just don't understand it.
And now police are suggesting that maybe there were no shots fired. Are you buying that?
No. I'm not buying that, not at all. Cause I was right there. I was right there, and I heard these sounds, and then I just see people running, and I'm sorry, that just does not happen if there's no gunfire.
Our teammate is there, and she texted our group chat saying that she's hearing gunshots. She's saying there's rifles. There's no way.
You didn't see somebody with a gun.
No one's trying to look for them. You're trying to run away.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it very much.
I'm Kanani Kramers.
Well, she told me she heard shots and that they were on lockdown, so I left my house and drove as fast as I could to be here, make sure that she was okay, and she's doing okay, from what I understand. So, thank you.
So what I saw was when I came around campus around like 8:53 to 8:55, I parked, and then as soon as I parked, these kids were like, leave right now, right? And then police helicopter came by, and as soon as I was like, I asked them what happened, so that shots were fired, and then as soon as they said that, like 5 police officers came by, and they were huge assault rifles. And then the guy.
So the response was immediate.
It was immediate. Like, it was crazy. They were all Des Moines police officers. There was a lady and like 4 unmarked vehicles. But the response was like super immediate. The guy who was right next to me, who was inside my vehicle with me, he was in the Marines, and he said that he was the one who called 911 first. He said that the shots happened between like the library and the student union. So, yeah.
Okay.
Crazy, huh? What news station is it? Q13?
Yeah, Q13.
I'm just waiting for a couple of my friends now.
Yeah, it sounds like they're in the process of clearing campus. They haven't found the shooter. They haven't found anyone until the shots got fired.
the air. So we are off the air. We are off the air. I can't put a bow on.
All right, guys, I want to let you know from inside the newsroom here that nothing is quite confirmed yet with this situation here at Highline Community College in Washington State. So it's south of Seattle, about 17 miles. You can see there on the map exactly where it is. And unfortunately, we actually just lost two of our video feeds that we had coming in, giving us sort of the look inside that parking lot where the caution tape was, where all the medical professionals were, and some of the tactical forces were as well, responding to what they called reports of gunfire on campus. Now, all the offices and classrooms were on lockdown until further notice. And the police department there said it was among multiple agencies that actually responded to the area after reports of shots fired. But again, nothing has been confirmed. So if you're on our stream joining us for this, that is the latest news on that. And like I said, we don't have any more feeds coming in. But Ron, you just mentioned the Rod Rosenstein press conference, which I believe we are just getting a bump shot of that in. We're going to bring that to you from the Department of Justice. That just came in. We did not know that was coming. So thanks for being aware of that and giving us the heads up. I just saw it. But like I said, just to sort of conclude, representatives of the college did not actually respond to messages right away this morning, but officials did warn the community on social media. They used Facebook as a platform to say that this wasn't a drill. They were asked to close doors and windows. Looks like we have a little more insight coming in.
Just came here to find out. Yeah. That's 253-632-2770.
Could you spell your name for us and what's your name?
Sure. Steve Talmadge, Talmadge. Thank you.
I found some. That's so funny. You know what? Randomly, I was watching.
All right, guys, as you can see, it looks like the camera has been set down on this bump shot here, still in the parking lot. Now, interestingly, also, the community college itself didn't really post anything on their website except for it was a blank homepage on their college homepage saying that they are currently in lockdown due to an active threat on campus. They asked students and staff to remain away from campus until future notice. And that's all we know right now. Unfortunately, there's still efforting the update as the situation changes. If it does, reporters have been talking to some of the bystanders, some of the people possibly there to pick up their kids, possibly family members and other loved ones in that area. We saw some hugs, a little bit of emotion as well, but really nothing else as far as confirmed reports as to what exactly happened. You can see their tactical team all swatted up there with his gun drawn and his vest, all of his gear on. We haven't seen a close up on that. But it doesn't look like there's a big rush around sense of urgency as we would see in other scenarios when we saw those aerial shots and other shots of the situation in Florida. It was much more of a frantic scene. It seems like they're investigating something that could be serious. but we just don't know. So we're going to hold it right there, guys, and go over to this press conference at Department of Justice. Rod Rosenstein, here it is.
Charges 13 Russian nationals and 3 Russian companies for committing federal crimes while seeking to interfere in the United States political system, including the 2016 presidential election. The defendants allegedly conducted what they called information warfare against the United States, with the stated goal of spreading distrust towards the candidates and the political system in general. According to the allegations in the indictment, 12 of the individual defendants worked at various times for a company called Internet Research Agency, LLC, a Russian company based in St. Petersburg. The other individual defendant, Yevgeny Viktorovich Prigozhin, funded the conspiracy through companies known as Concord Management and Consulting, LLC, Concord Catering, and many affiliates and subsidiaries. The conspiracy was part of a larger operation called Project Lakta. Project Lakta included multiple components, some involving domestic audiences within the Russian Federation and others targeting foreign audiences in multiple countries. Internet Research Agency allegedly operated through Russian shell companies. It employed hundreds of people in its online operations, ranging from creators of fictitious personas to technical and administrative support personnel with an annual budget of millions of dollars. Internet Research Agency was a structured organization headed by a management group and arranged into departments, including graphics, search engine optimization, information technology, and finance departments. In 2014, the company established a translator project focused on the United States. In July of 2016, more than 80 employees were assigned to the translator project. 2 of the defendants allegedly traveled to the United States in 2014 to collect intelligence for their American influence operations. In order to hide the Russian origins of their activities, the defendants allegedly purchased space on computer servers located here in the United States in order to set up a virtual private network. The defendants allegedly used that infrastructure to establish hundreds of accounts on social media networks such as Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, making it appear that those accounts were controlled by persons located in the United States. They used stolen or fictitious American identities, fraudulent bank accounts, and false identification documents. The defendants posed as politically and socially active Americans, advocating for and against particular candidates. They established social media pages and groups to communicate with unwitting Americans. They also purchased political advertisements on social media networks. The Russians also recruited and paid real Americans to engage in political activities, promote political campaigns, and stage political rallies. The defendants and their co-conspirators pretended to be grassroots activists. According to the indictment, the Americans did not know that they were communicating with Russians. After the election, the defendants allegedly staged rallies to support the president-elect while simultaneously staging rallies to protest his election. For example, the defendants organized one rally to support the president-elect and another rally to oppose him, both in New York on the same day. On September 13th of 2017, soon after the news media reported that the special counsel's office was investigating evidence that Russian operatives had used social media to interfere with the 2016 election, one defendant allegedly wrote, quote, "We had a slight crisis here at work. The FBI busted our activity. So I got preoccupied with covering tracks together with my colleagues," end quote. The indictment includes 8 criminal counts. Count 1 alleges a criminal conspiracy to defraud the United States by all of the defendants. The defendants allegedly conspired to defraud America by impairing the lawful functions of the Federal Election Commission, the United States Department of Justice, and the Department of State. Those organizations of the U.S. government are responsible for administering federal requirements for disclosure of foreign involvement in certain domestic activities. Count 2 charges conspiracy to commit wire fraud and bank fraud by Internet Research Agency and 2 of the individual defendants. And counts 3 through 8 charge aggravated identity theft by Internet Research Agency and 4 individuals. Now, there is no allegation in this indictment that any American was a knowing participant in this illegal activity. There is no allegation in the indictment that the charged conduct altered the outcome of the 2016 election. I want to caution you that everyone charged with a crime is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty in court. At trial, prosecutors must introduce credible evidence that is sufficient to prove each defendant guilty beyond any reasonable doubt to a unanimous jury. The special counsel's investigation is ongoing. There will be no comments from the special counsel at this time. This indictment serves as a reminder that people are not always who they appear to be on the internet. The indictment alleges that the Russian conspirators want to promote discord in the United States and undermine public confidence in democracy. We must not allow them to succeed. The Department of Justice will continue to work cooperatively with other law enforcement and intelligence agencies and with the Congress to defend our nation against similar current and future efforts. I want to thank the federal agents and prosecutors who are working on this case for their exceptional service, and I'll be happy to take a few questions.
Is there concern that this indictment undermines the outcome of the election?
What I have identified for you are the allegations in the indictment. There's no allegation in the indictment of any effect on the outcome of the election. Jessica.
On page 4 of the indictment, paragraph 6, it specifically talks about the Trump campaign, saying that defendants communicated with unwitting individuals associated with the Trump campaign. My question is, later in the indictment, campaign officials are referenced, not by their name, by campaign official 1 or 2 or 3. Were campaign officials cooperative, or were they duped? What was their relationship with this?
Again, there's no allegation in this indictment that any American had any knowledge. And the nature of the scheme was that the defendants took extraordinary steps to make it appear that they were ordinary American political activists, even going so far as to base their activities on a virtual private network here in the United States. So if anybody traced it back to that first jump, they appear to be Americans. Catherine.
Have you had any assurances from the Russians that they will provide these individuals for prosecution?
There's been no communication with the Russians about this. We'll follow the ordinary process of seeking cooperation and extradition. Thank you very much.
All right, guys, there you have it. If you're joining us on Facebook or YouTube, that's the news. 13 Russians and 3 Russian entities now charged today with an elaborate plot to interfere in the 2016 election. If you're interested to read more on this, more details, I know this press conference was kind of short and sweet here with Deputy Rod Rosenstein here at the DOJ. We have more on our web page and on our story, which is linked below this. We'll be right back with some more. All right, guys, a little background on this if you're joining us on YouTube, just so you know what's going on. Maybe you haven't caught the full story on our webpage, fox5dc.com. If you're interested, go right there. You can read all about it. But quickly to just summarize, this just came up, and I know, Iran, you were mentioning this, and we just saw the video kind of come up in the bump shot of that podium. But essentially, this is an indictment brought by the Office of Special Counsel Robert Mueller, who alleges that there were some Russians that used bogus social media postings and different advertisements to essentially fraudulently sway people and their political opinion in the 2016 election between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. This is the most direct allegation to date of illegal Russian meddling in the election. So it is kind of a big story here, big news. We're going to be following it, getting more details on how this all came about, what exactly they found. But they say in their indictment that the goal of these people was to just sow political discord amongst people during this election. So both sides of the aisle to sow discord in the U.S. political system as a unit. And the charges actually include conspiracy, wire fraud, bank fraud, and identity theft as well. So lots going on here. I know it's sort of a convoluted topic, and it's not something, you know, we talk about a ton without other references or experts here in the newsroom, but we don't have anybody here right now on this to kind of chat with about. But like I said, more details in the story that we are posting about this these new charges that arise from the Mueller investigation into the Russian interference in the election. Like I said, it's the most direct allegation to date of this whole situation about illegal Russian meddling in the 2016 election. So that was Rod Rosenstein from the Department of Justice. We were earlier kind of chatting about this situation in the state of Washington, but unfortunately I also have lost my video there. If that does come back up, I'm going to update you on that. But so far, nothing new as it's concerned with what's going on in Highline Community College in the state of Washington. That's in Des Moines, Washington, south of Seattle. There were reports of shots fired, but we have not actually confirmed that. Police have not confirmed that. So we're going to go with that for now until we find out more about what's going on in Washington. But like I mentioned, do stay on our stream because in just a few moments, less than 20, we're going to have a special guest for our celebration of Black History Month. And we're really excited to keep this going throughout the month of February. I know it's a short month and we only have 4 really weeks to kind of talk about this, but every Friday we're hoping to feature someone from the community, an influencer, someone who has changed the lives of the world around them from just their experience, what they've done, how they've grown in their field. And we're going to talk to a special lady, Karen Alston, today about her life and what she's been doing to influence her community, the African American community in specifically, and also how she's gotten active in the Me Too movement for women. So a lot of different angles on this with our special guest Karen. That's coming up at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So stay on with us for that. Very excited to bring her to you live from our newsroom. With that, guys, taking a quick moment here, and we'll come back to chat about anything else that's live and breaking here on Fox 5 Digital. Remember, you can follow us on all of our platforms, Fox 5 DC on everything. We got Twitter, our Facebook page as well, of course. We're posting all the relevant articles, and Instagram as well, Fox 5 DC right there, and right here on our YouTube page. Hope that you're a subscriber. If you're not, click the button that says subscribe, that red button that's glaringly bold below my face here, and you can be part of our Fox 5 Live community and check into us when we're live here in the newsroom with all of our breaking news coverage. So with that, take a live look at this sort of rainy but warm day here in DC, and we'll come back with our special guest coming up. All right, guys, so obviously the big breaking news that officials have announced the indictment against more than a dozen Russian nationals for meddling in the election. Now, I just want to replay quickly. It's a quick 8-minute blip here from Rod Rosenstein from the DOJ, just detailing this. I know some of you are jumping on, kind of just seeing this headline. So let's go to that now. We're going to replay that, and then we're going to come back in the newsroom for a special Black History Month celebration. We're going to have a special guest here to kind of round out our show with a little conversation with a local woman who has just been very influential in her field, from business, Fortune 100 companies, business, to activism in the Me Too movement as well. So it really runs the gamut, everything she's done for the people who are around her, and it's going to be really great to have a little conversation with her. She's coming downstairs soon, so we're going to be joined by her in a second. But for now, let's check back in to the statement that was just made about the Russians that have been charged in this Mueller investigation.
Multiple components.
71.
Foreign audiences in multiple countries. Internet Research Agency allegedly operated through Russian shell companies. It employed hundreds of people in its online operations, ranging from creators of fictitious personas to technical and administrative support personnel, with an annual budget of millions of dollars. Internet Research Agency was a structured organization headed by a management group and arranged into departments, including graphics, search engine optimization, information technology, and finance departments. In 2014, the company established a translator project focused on the United States. In July of 2016, more than 80 employees were assigned to the translator project. 2 of the defendants allegedly traveled to the United States in 2014 to collect intelligence for their American influence operations. In order to hide the Russian origins of their activities, the defendants allegedly purchased space on computer servers located here in the United States in order to set up a virtual private network. The defendants allegedly used that infrastructure to establish hundreds of accounts on social media networks such as Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, making it appear that those accounts were controlled by persons located in the United States. They used stolen or fictitious American identities, fraudulent bank accounts, and false identification documents. The defendants posed as politically and socially active Americans, advocating for and against particular candidates. They established social media pages and groups to communicate with unwitting Americans. They also purchased political advertisements on social media networks. The Russians also recruited and paid real Americans to engage in political activities, promote political campaigns, and stage political rallies. The defendants and their co-conspirators pretended to be grassroots activists. According to the indictment, the Americans did not know that they were communicating with Russians. After the election, the defendants allegedly staged rallies to support the president-elect, while simultaneously staging rallies to protest his election. For example, the defendants organized one rally to support the president-elect and another rally to oppose him, both in New York on the same day. On September 13th of 2017, soon after the news media reported that the special counsel's office was investigating evidence that Russian operatives had used social media to interfere with the 2016 election, one defendant allegedly wrote, quote, "We had a slight crisis here at work. The FBI busted our activity. So I got preoccupied with covering tracks together with my colleagues," end quote. The indictment includes 8 criminal counts. Count 1 alleges a criminal conspiracy to defraud the United States by all of the defendants. The defendants allegedly conspired to defraud America by impairing the lawful functions of the Federal Election Commission, the United States Department of Justice, and the Department of State. Those organizations of the U.S. government are responsible for administering federal requirements for disclosure of foreign involvement in certain domestic activities. Count 2 charges conspiracy to commit wire fraud and bank fraud by Internet Research Agency and 2 of the individual defendants. And counts 3 through 8 charge aggravated identity theft by Internet Research Agency and 4 individuals. Now, there is no allegation in this indictment that any American was a knowing participant in this illegal activity. There is no allegation in the indictment that the charged conduct altered the outcome of the 2016 election. I want to caution you that everyone charged with a crime is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty in court. At trial, prosecutors must introduce credible evidence that is sufficient to prove each defendant guilty beyond any reasonable doubt to a unanimous jury. The special counsel's investigation is ongoing. There will be no comments from the special counsel at this time. This indictment serves as a reminder that people are not always who they appear to be on the internet. The indictment alleges that the Russian conspirators want to promote discord in the United States and undermine public confidence in democracy. We must not allow them to succeed. The Department of Justice will continue to work cooperatively with other law enforcement and intelligence agencies and with the Congress to defend our nation against similar current and future efforts. I want to thank the federal agents and prosecutors who are working on this case for their exceptional service, and I'll be happy to take a few questions.
They're concerned that this indictment undermines the outcome of the election.
What I've identified for you are the allegations in the indictment. There's no allegation in the indictment of any effect on the outcome of the election. Jessica.
On page 4 of the indictment, paragraph 6, it specifically talks about the Trump campaign, saying that defendants communicated with unwitting individuals associated with the Trump campaign. My question is, later in the indictment, campaign officials are...
All right, guys, Molly here in the newsroom. I just saw some more video come down regarding this breaking news. Now, this was the press conference just a few moments ago at the Department of Justice, just replaying what he had to say. Let's go over to this new video coming in. I think it's related, of course, to, I'm just realizing, though, actually, this is the introduction to Vice President Pence. He is speaking at an RNC engagement in Texas. But instead of going to that, actually, I do want to take it back into the newsroom just briefly here to introduce what we're going to do next. It's our next guest. And like I mentioned, we're celebrating Black History Month in February. And we do have a special guest joining us today. Let's make the screen a little bit wider. Karen is here. Karen, come on in. Roll on in. And we're going to introduce you to our guest. So Karen Alston, entrepreneur, activist, businesswoman with an amazing resume and past and amazing stories related to all that stuff that is important to our lives right now. Both, of course, African-American history and culture for this month, the women's movement, the Me Too movement. You have a ton to talk about with that. And just her experience coming from where she started in her career after college and how it's blossomed. Let's talk to Karen about her entrepreneurism and your business acumen and everything. Karen, let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
You're just an amazing subject for this, and I'm so happy to have her here on this Friday. Thanks for coming to our coverage.
I'm so happy to be here.
Awesome.
What a great day. What a great Friday.
It's a beautiful Friday. We're so happy. So, Karen, let's talk about the beginning of your career. You were sort of at the helm of something big as one of the first African-American women to kind of do what you did. Tell us about where you started.
So I was really excited. When I came out of undergrad, I got a job on Wall Street. So my parents, my grandparents, my family, they were very, very proud that I had gotten a job at one of the storied old banks on Wall Street. My mom went out and bought a whole bunch of dresses for me and suits and scarves. I got my first Hermes scarf.
Ooh.
And it was just a sense of pride for my family. It was a wonderful moment of all of their sacrifice and hard work for me to get this job. And in my department, there were about 700 people, and of the 700, there were 4 African Americans, and I was the only African American woman.
Amazing.
Yeah,
those numbers.
It was
right?
it was such a tremendous opportunity. But it was Wall Street, and Wall Street has always been a boys' club. It's always been a male-dominated industry, but as a woman, I had a goal, and I wanted to be the youngest African-American managing director in the history of the bank.
Wow.
That was my goal.
So you went into it knowing I'm going to set these goals for myself. I know I'm the first paving the way, or one of the four or whatever, paving the way. And so how did you sort of maneuver that goal? What did you do?
So I had a mentor who worked at another bank, and she said, when your managing director gets to work is when you get to work, and when your managing director leaves is when you leave. So I started doing that. So I would get to work every day about 7:30 a.m. and I'd leave work every day about 7:30, 8 p.m. On average. And of course he started to notice, you know, he was like, wow, Karen, you're still here. You got here when I got here, you know, and he started to pay attention. And he knew my name. And that was so amazing because he would start to look for me. Like after about 6 or 7 months, he'd start to look for me to say, hey, okay, it's time to go home. It's 8 o'clock, go home. Or it's 9 o'clock, or it's 10 o'clock, Karen, go home.
It's good to be in the eyes of your boss like that.
Yes.
So that felt, so okay, so then where did that lead? You were doing your thing, you're noticed.
Yeah, that was amazing. And it allowed me to get noticed by sort of the higher ups at the firm. I was able to get on a couple of committees that were more national committees, so that was amazing. And at that time, I helped, because I stayed late, and for those of you who understand protocol of baking, because I stayed late, I answered the phone one day and got a call from the Middle East. And at that time, there was a little bit of challenge about women working on certain accounts, especially accounts of folks from the Middle East at that time. And because I handled it and did such a great job, the account team said, Karen is always going to work on this account.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
you proved yourself in multiple ways. People noticed, and you got to do something steadily that sort of also helped launch you.
Yes.
Tell me, too, about the culture. You were saying you're one of the few,
women.
First of all, one of the few women. Probably, were you one of the few African Americans as well in this office?
Yes.
It's a boys' club.
It's a boys' club.
Just give me more insight into what that felt like and how you were treated. Maybe not by your boss, but others around you?
Being a woman at that time on Wall Street was never an easy, it's a difficult thing. But you just learn to adapt. You learn to hang with the guys. You learn to allow a lot of things to not affect you. You know, you can't react. And especially as your career is moving, you just sort of deal with it. It was just a part of the culture of the firm. And if you were able to deal with it, you could move up. Now, it wasn't Wolf of Wall Street. It wasn't that bad. But
that's what I'm imagining.
It wasn't that bad, but it was definitely a male-dominated environment all the time. So you just adapted as a woman. And other women were supportive of me. They definitely were. I still have mentors to this day who started on Wall Street like I did and paved a way for women like me. But even today, one of the things that bothers me is the amount of female leadership on Wall Street. It's minuscule.
It is.
It's minuscule.
Wow. As it is with, I guess, a lot of other jobs as well, but specifically that. We hear that in banking and Wall Street. So, all right, quick backup, because I know you're local. What's your background again and where you're from? Tell everybody where you're from and your experience.
So, my family's from Philadelphia. I grew up in Philadelphia. Came down here to go to Howard University, so I'm a graduate of Howard, and then most of my family followed me here over the past 20 years, so they're all here. But I left to go to New York after college, but I moved back here to work for America Online, and loved working for America Online. Well, at the time they were out in Dulles, out in the Ashburn, Dulles area, and I loved working for them, and decided to walk away from AOL and work for myself, and I've been doing that for a long time.
So that's interesting. So Howard totally launching you ready for the big city of New York, banking, all that craziness, and then you decided to leave it, even though it was steady and it was good. It was you were making your way up that path. What made you make the decision to kind of get out of it and do your own thing?
So this will tie into the Me Too movement because I really had an honest aha moment back in October.
When is this? This is
why I left Wall Street, because my goal was to be the youngest female managing director in the history of the firm. You know, I was going to work super hard and get promoted as fast as I possibly could to make that goal of managing director. So I loved finance, I loved business, I loved working on Wall. It was my passion, it was my dream. And my boss was sexually harassing me. And I realized just a few months ago that I walked away from my career due to the harassment, But in dealing with the harassment, I walked away from banking, I walked away from Wall Street completely.
Just to get away from that harassment.
Just to get away. And I went into marketing, and that was my path of going into marketing and branding, but I walked away from financial services.
Wow. So that was your most recent, just to clarify, that was your most recent boss. And
moment.
that's what made you leave? Or,
no, it was my boss
was
when I
original.
was my original boss, yeah.
Okay. And so what did that feel like to have to take that as your reasoning for, were you justified in that? Did you feel okay with it?
No, I wasn't justified. I
Yeah.
should have, in hindsight, I should have spoken up. Now, even if I would have been fired, I should have spoken up. And so I'm really thankful that God and the universe has given me the opportunity to speak out now, because I didn't have the strength, and I didn't feel that I was going to be heard, that my voice would be heard at that time.
Of course.
And my boss was very powerful. Like I said, it's this male-dominated environment, and I just felt that no one would listen to me. And so I had an opportunity to go work somewhere else, and I jumped on that opportunity and I left.
Wow. So if you're comfortable, I'm curious to know more about the harassment and what exactly you felt surrounding it, and then also more about the Me Too movement and just how you got involved with it and how things kind of launched from there. So I guess all encompassing, let us know what happened to you.
So I, as I said, I would work long hours, and my immediate boss, not the managing director, but my immediate boss, about once a week, he would take us out, the people who worked for him, for drinks.
Yeah.
And it was his way of giving back. It was his way of our team bonding. So he would take us out for drinks all the time. And I would sit and drink with him and drink with my coworkers, and we would have a good time. And he would always pick up the tab. So it was a lot of fun, and it was a great bonding experience for us as a team. Maybe about 8 months into doing that, my boss sat next to me and said, you know, I want you to consider something. And I'm thinking, you know, it's a new project or it's something that's talking about. And he said, I want you to date me. And there are a lot of perks to dating me. You know, you'll get extra time off, you'll get perfect performance appraisals, you know, all these perks that he was willing to give to me, and there were more. And he said, I just need you to think about it, and, you know, I'm a good guy to date. By the way, at the time, he was probably 20 years older than I was.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to process that. I didn't know how to navigate it. I didn't know how to manage it. And I didn't have anybody to talk to about it.
That feeling.
That feeling, right. And then I carried the burden of my family and how proud they were of me having this job.
That position.
And how much I loved my job. So I naively thought, well, I can just avoid him. You know, every time I see him walking, I'll go in a different direction, or I won't go to out to the team, you know, dinners and the bar anymore. And so I stopped doing that. But of course, the harassment increased.
It did.
And he decided to do more and more and more. So eventually I went to another manager that was at the same level. And I think he was a vice president at the time, and asked to be transferred to his team.
Wow.
And to this day, I believe that people knew his reputation and that people knew the type of harasser he was. But he, like I said, in that boys' club, he was protected.
He was protected, as we've seen in all these situations in Hollywood.
Yes,
everything
he
else
was
in politics.
protected. And so I was able to transfer and get on a different team. And then I naively thought, oh, now he'll really leave me alone.
Sure.
He won't bother me.
That's what you think.
Didn't stop.
It didn't stop.
He still continued.
So that is what eventually led you down to the path to make the decision to leave that, even though your parents were so proud, even though you were on that path to that goal, but you were okay with that. You ended up you resigned to it. You went to do your own thing.
Well, I ended up going to another company, and then leaving there to go to America Online.
Oh, right. Okay, to come back down.
But at that point, I'm fully into marketing and advertising. I'm not working in financial services at all. I'm not doing anything that has to do with money or stocks or bonds or anything.
Okay.
I'm just focused on marketing and advertising.
So let's bring this all full circle and come back to present day. The Me Too movement blossoms. Harvey Weinstein's all over Twitter, all over the papers. We're seeing this in celebrity culture, in Hollywood, everywhere. You take note of this. You see it. You're active on social media as well.
I'm very active on social media.
Quick note, your handle is Advertising Diva.
Yep, Advertising Diva.
At Advertising Diva, for anybody who wants to follow Karen.
Follow me.
And she's a big social media maven here. But you saw this and you resonated with it.
Yes. When I started, so there was a hashtag called My Harvey Weinstein. And I started to see women share what had happened to them at their jobs. And I shared that this happened to me and that it was extremely painful and that I had never really talked about it. And lo and behold, a few hours later, I got a tweet back from a producer of the Today Show asking if she could DM me and asking for my phone number. And I thought, is this a fake? You know, is this a Russian account?
Right? They saw your hashtags, they saw your tweet.
And so I spoke to her the next day and she said, you know, I really want you to come on the Today Show this weekend and talk about this. And I thought, she's crazy. I haven't even told my dad yet. So I had to
about the scenario.
I hadn't told my father what had happened. So she said, call your dad, call a few friends, and I'll call you back in a few hours. And I spoke to my father. I called a few friends, one of who is here on Fox, Sean Yancey.
Oh, really?
And she said, get your butt on that train tomorrow morning. And I went to New York and shared my story on the Today Show on Weekend Today.
Oh my goodness. So what was that experience like? So you shared basically what you shared with us here about their company, what had happened. And from there, did you feel, did other things start coming to you about like sharing this with the world? What happened?
So it's really funny because when the segment aired, because we had taped in advance so they could edit it. So when the segment aired, I was so nervous and so afraid. I was literally in my hotel room with the covers covered over me. I was scared to death.
Yeah.
But since I've done that, now I'm excited to share my story. And I carry the story of other women because one of the unique things that has happened is women have approached me when they see me in public to tell me their story because they're afraid to share it publicly or they're afraid to tell the world what happened to them. And so now I carry the stories of other women and their sexual harassment story. And because of that, I have been asked to speak on this topic. Matter of fact, I'm speaking next week at the National Association of Broadcasters on this topic, on Me Too. And I have gone to Los Angeles, I've gone to New York, I've spoken here, I'm speaking with you now.
About it.
And I'm just happy that we're getting these stories out.
Absolutely.
I'm so happy we're getting these stories out, and I'm so proud of women and the courage they have to share, and if they can't share it publicly, to share it with somebody else.
Absolutely. This movement, this whole trend, as you will, is not over. You know, we were talking about it at the height of it, of course, but these things continue. People continue to talk about it. Their stories continue to come out. People are tweeting about it. I'm curious, too, just personally, too, was there any fear or of any repercussions of you sharing this? I know this boss was way prior in your past. You probably don't have a connect with them anymore. Did you, or do you, or did you ever think, you know, what if X person calls me from this office, or what would I feel if this person comes to me about this? Do you feel any of that fear?
I have some fear. I never say the name of the firm, but I do have some fear about that, but I don't have fear of the person. And if he were to reach out to me, I would tell him the effect of the harassment and that I walked away from a career that I loved and wanted. And when I was in undergrad, I worked so hard to get a job at this firm. I mean, I did everything possible to get a job at this firm, and I impressed so many people that I got the job. So I walked away from something that was very valuable to me.
It was very valuable and a big part of your life. Since then, I guess, actually, what would you say to maybe somebody who's watching, or women out there who might be dealing with this, or what advice would you give about this type of thing happening today?
Well, first of all, you are powerful. And my fear in that moment was that I had no power. And in a lot of instances, we don't. Let's be real. You know, if you work for a small business or a small company, if you're in a small town and maybe you've got a good job, you've got kids, mortgage, apartment, rent, all of these bills to pay, I know it's difficult. So find someone that you can share with, find a support group, find a tribe of women and men who can be supportive to you in the process. because you're going to have to figure out how to navigate it. For those of us who work for a big corporation, there are outlets there, you know, you can go to HR, you can go to different, you know, mechanisms to report it. But for people who work for small businesses, sometimes the repercussion is that you might get fired, and you have to be able to understand what that will mean for your life, and especially to the women who are in small towns.
Right.
I worry about them more than anyone else, because if they've got a great job, it's hard to go find another good job.
There's not a lot out there. When you were going through this, did you have any of that support system? No, because you kind of kept it inward, right?
I had no support. And the women, like I said, at that time, I think a lot of people knew who he was and what kind of predator he was. They just didn't say anything. It was the culture that, oh, we're not going to talk about it. Oh, just don't work for him, or oh, stay away from him. And of course, we have this horrible thing in our society where we blame women. We say, oh, well, maybe you were dressing too sexy.
Yes.
Maybe your skirts were a little too much, or maybe you were flirting with him and he got the wrong idea. No, I didn't do any of that. Right. All I did was go to work every day.
Right.
So, yeah.
And even more beyond that, you went to work for extended hours, you impressed your boss, you know, you were on this path to your goal. All right, so fast forward to the future, let's come to what you've been involved with, I guess, in the area. You have some special things that you are very proud of, that you are involved with in the community, but particularly in the African American women community, is that right?
Yeah, I do a lot. As a woman of color, I'm always hoping to assist and help other women of color, but throughout my career, I have met women of every background, every nationality, and I am a proponent of women. So I think it's very important as women that we share our stories. It's very important as women that we're authentic and tell the truth of who we are and our path and how we were able to get from point A to point B to point C. And so because of that, 3 years ago, I wrote a white paper for an organization that I wanted to create where women could have a safe space to share their authentic stories. And it's called the Spectrum Circle. I had no idea that my white paper would turn into the Spectrum Circle, or that the Spectrum Circle would grow to what it is today.
Yeah. So we're looking at some video right now of an award
luncheon.
Yes.
For the
Spectrum
I do
Circle.
a luncheon every year.
Oh, great.
The upcoming luncheon is March the 16th. So please go visit our website or go on social media and follow the Spectrum Circle.
Is the handle. Tell us more about what it is as a group.
So the luncheon is an awards luncheon where we recognize 5 innovative women in the DC area who are doing really great things. And I try to focus on women that people may not have heard of. So, because as I said, it's important as women we recognize each other, we support each other, and we share the story of what someone has overcome or achieved.
Yes.
So by doing that, the awards luncheon is our signature event. It's at the Fairmont Hotel.
Wow, beautiful. There's some
beautiful
footage of
Fairmont Hotel.
You're in the yellow in this, right?
I'm in the yellow in
yellow
this,
dress.
yeah. And so this is last year's luncheon, and I'm really excited for this year's luncheon.
Yeah.
And as the luncheon is growing, I mean, I'm having so much fun just planning and organizing it. As a matter of fact, next week we will be announcing this year's winners.
Oh, great.
Next
of
week.
the women that will be featured, that will be speaking?
Yes.
Or that will be,
that are the awardees.
Very cool.
Yes.
Very
so I'm really
fun.
excited about that.
I love it. And this.
But we also do other events. We've done events at Microsoft, at Google. We do events on different topics. So we could do one on women in media, women in digital media, and we profile those women. We do things on women in, tech or women in power. And we profile women to come and share who they are, what it's like to be a woman in that field.
Yes.
And now that I think about it, probably what happened to me earlier in my career, not having a lot of women to go to ask for advice and help, and to help me navigate the challenges I had, I needed that. And even now in my career, I needed what I didn't have. And even now, the doors that are open for me, I want to help other women come through those doors. So I created this platform so that I could help, especially the millennial. I have a lot of millennial women that follow me.
Yeah, a lot of you guys out there, millennials, are on the digital platform.
A lot of millennials that follow me.
Yeah, I'm going to be following all your stuff in like a few minutes after she leaves.
Thank you.
But that's amazing. How would you reach out to millennial women, do you think? I know some of you guys are watching.
As a matter of fact, I'll give you an exclusive.
Yeah.
I'm going to plan something for millennial women this year because Millennials are very unique. I have a bunch of mentees that are millennials. They're great, amazing women, and they're trying to change the world. And I fully believe the next generation will change our world. So I need to give them the tools they need to be as successful as possible. So I'm going to plan a conference probably in the fall, just for millennial women. So sorry, my Gen X and boomers, just for millennials.
Love it.
To help pour into them with the tools they need. And I'm going to reach out to them to ask them what it is that they feel is a gap in their life that they need help with, especially from older women.
Awesome, because you know it really does change generation to generation what you dealt with at work, what you're dealing with now, what you need to move forward. It changes over the years. Everything is changing.
And sadly, it's still not equitable. We still have panels of all men. We still have boards that are all men. The Weinstein Company was an all-male board. There was not a single woman on that board of directors. We still have a culture where, I mean, right now there are 20 female CEOs out of the Fortune 500. We have not, there's no parity. There is no parity. We have a long way to go as women.
I was actually going to ask you about that. Where do you feel we are now? Even though we're
better,
thinking, we're future, but
we're better than we've been. But it's still horrible. It's still minuscule. I mean, look at our Congress. It's there. We are not at parity. We're not at a place where we think, oh, I don't have to search for a woman opinion. When I see conferences and there are no women, unless it's a male panel on an issue, and because it's issue related. I still see conferences where there are no women. And you ask yourself, there's no one that's qualified? There's no woman that works in this industry?
Right. And I love that notion that you brought up earlier, just in general, of women supporting women in their passions, in their loves, in their fields, and how they're trying to grow themselves, even personally, introspectively. Women supporting women is huge. I think it's valuable in an office, in our newsroom. It's valuable.
And in our personal life.
In our personal life.
Oh, look, we just saw the Rob Porter situation. So as women, to be able to help another woman in a difficult situation as that, or to encourage the women, the ex-wives of Rob Porter, who are sharing their stories so eloquently.
I've seen them.
And not to bash or harm or disparage them, but to support them, because it took a lot of bravery to share their truth. And that's why I created the Spectrum Circle, so that women can have a conversation about sharing who they are without the judgment and without the disparity.
Rob Porter, of course, the White House advisor, who's under these allegations of his ex-wives.
Yes, alleged.
Alleged allegations of abuse to his ex-wives, two of his ex-wives. When did you start the Spectrum Circle in the whole
3 years
realm?
ago.
3 years ago. Okay.
And it is my passion, and it's growing. And
I love it. Can't wait to follow it more.
Oh, I'm so excited about it and the things that are happening. It's really exciting time.
Yeah. So ultimately, are you happy, even though it was under those circumstances, that you made that change from your dream of banking to what you do now? Because you love it now.
I love what I do now, but I fully admit, I watch a lot of Fox Business and a lot of CNBC. I miss that. I do miss Wall Street and that money and that banking world. But I love what I do now. I love this platform I've created. I probably need to do some more financial services panels and have some events.
That's your thing.
Maybe I'll have some events around money and women in money, because that's also a critical topic that we as women need to address and share with each other. So I'm looking forward to the future, and I'm on the right path. I am adamant that God has me. I'm in alignment. That was the word I needed to say. I'm in alignment. I'm in alignment.
Really good word to use. Any sort of, to sum it all up, final summation of words of empowerment for young women, young or older women, African American maybe particularly, because we are talking about Black History Month. What would you say to them out there?
So to my African American women, I would say the sky is the limit and you can do anything. Don't box yourself, and don't allow anyone else to box you. There is no box. You can do whatever it is that you set out to do. And to all women, I would say, find your tribe, be open to receive, and to focus on how, as women, we can help each other. One of the things we do, we tend to be very siloed. We tend to just be in our comfort zone. So one of my own personal slogans is to always be uncomfortable. So push yourself outside of your comfort zone, because that's where the growth happens.
Yes. You see those charts of the Venn diagram, the two circles go outside
of it, yes.
And the growth.
And the growth happens.
Spurt.
The growth happens. And I am a testament to that. So when I say I'm in alignment because I've been uncomfortable. And by being uncomfortable, God keeps pushing.
It's amazing. And you really have. Your story is quite inspirational. Thank you so much, Karen, for joining us for this coverage.
This is so much fun.
I love it. It's fun to talk to our digital audience about this because I know this stuff is real. It's happening in your lives, possibly. It's happening in your career. We have women out there. We have the African American community out there as well. And it's great to be able to talk to such an influential force in that community for this very special month of February 2018. Thank you so much, Karen. We're going to hope that I'm definitely going to follow you on your stuff. You can follow her on @AdvertisingDiva, her personal handle on pretty much all platforms. And then the Spectrum Circle is
at Spectrum Circle.
At Spectrum Circle. Wonderful. It was great to kind of show that video, a little insight as to what that looked like. And glad to have you in studio today.
Thank you.
Okay,
I'm so happy to be here.
Wonderful.
Thanks, guys.
All right, guys, we'll be right back. All right, guys, we're back. We're back in the studio here at Fox 5 DC. I'm Molly Nevola here. We're going to close out our show here around 2:30 Eastern Time. Really great to have Karen in as our special guest for Black History Month, and what an inspirational story. It was really great to hear about her life and her activism now in this movement for women, young women, African American women, the community in general. And she's a great local resource now for someone like me and anyone else who's watching that might have found that to be resonant in their own life. So really great to talk to her. And thank you guys for joining us today on the stream and staying on with us. I know we had a little choppy moments here with some of the breaking news, but just wanted to make sure we got all of that out to you from the video in Washington State, which by all intents and purposes we believe has sort of ended. We don't have any more video of that coming in. Hopefully everything there is okay. Didn't seem to conclude in an urgent manner as police were responding to reports of gunfire in Washington State at a community college. That is ongoing. And then, of course, we had the breaking news from the Justice Department of the 13, more than a dozen Russian meddlers in the election who have been indicted. So more to come on our evening broadcast with that story. And of course, we're updating all of our digital platforms as much as possible. Our website, fox5dc.com, and our Facebook page, our timeline there with all the relevant web stories there for you. So with that, guys, we're going to close it off on this Friday. TGIF, have a great weekend. And it's a holiday weekend, so have a great President's Day weekend and President's Day if you are hanging out and have nothing to do. Maybe you want to pop us on Monday. We'll be back as normal in the 11 o'clock hour on Monday. I'll be here on President's Day. We'll be celebrating. We'll see what kind of special events we have to stream for you from our newsroom here in DC. So with that, guys, take care. Have a great, safe, and healthy weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday for more of our digital stream here at Fox 5 DC. All right, guys, take care. Leave you with a shot of the White House. And if you're in the DMV area, possible 1 inch or so of snow tomorrow. We had a little bit of a weather report earlier this morning on our Facebook page if you want to hear meteorologist Mike Thomas talk about that. He's on our timeline around 10:30 this morning talking about what you can expect in the DMV area if you're local. So it's going to be a cold one, but I think we're going into some warmer weather next week, so that's exciting. Have a great weekend, guys. We'll see you next week.